The soldier gave her last chocolate bar to a child who belonged to the enemy. Riven watched this from across the muddy road, their membrane skin flickering pale blue with confusion. This made no sense. The Siltari observer had studied human conflicts for 3 standard cycles before arriving on Earth. Humans were violent. Humans were territorial. Humans killed each other over invisible lines drawn on maps. Yet here stood Sergeant Ana Reyes, a warrior in full combat gear, kneeling in the dirt to hand candy to a small girl whose father had probably shot at Anna's friends yesterday. What? Riven whispered to no one that the Galactic Council had sent Riven to document human warfare. Humanity had applied for membership among the stars, but their endless conflicts made them dangerous. The Council needed data. They needed to understand why humans fought so brutally, yet also showed such strange restraint. Riven was supposed to observe from a distance, hidden behind perception filters that made them appear as a humanitarian aid worker. They were not supposed to feel anything. Siltari were scholars. They recorded. They analyzed. They did not get involved. But watching Anna lift the child onto her hip and carry her toward the refugee camp, Riven felt something shift in their chest. The war zone stretched across a valley that had once been farmland. Now it was craters and broken buildings and the distant sound of artillery. 2 human nations fought here over territory that neither could truly claim. The conflict had lasted 8 months. Thousands had died, and still they fought. Riven followed Anna into the camp. Tents and temporary shelters spread across a muddy field. Families huddled around small fires. Children played between the rows, somehow finding joy in the ruins of their world. "You're new," Anna said without turning around. She set the child down and watched her run to her mother. "Aid worker." Riven nodded, keeping their voice neutral. "I am here to observe." "Observe what?" "Misery." Anna laughed, but it held no humor. "There's plenty of that." "I want to understand," Riven said carefully. "Why do you fight?" Anna finally turned. Her eyes were tired, carrying weight that seemed too heavy for her years. "Because someone decided this land matters more than the people on it. Because old men in safe rooms draw lines on maps, and young people die defending them. Because once a war starts, stopping it means admitting the dying was pointless. Then why help them?" Riven gestured toward the refugees. "They are your enemy. They're not my enemy. They're just people on the wrong side of a line." Anna pulled off her helmet, revealing dark hair pressed flat with sweat. "The enemy is whoever decided a child should go hungry because of politics." Riven recorded everything. This was precisely the contradiction the Council wanted to understand. Humans could kill without mercy in battle, then turn around and sacrifice their own comfort for strangers. They were predators who adopted orphans, warriors who wept over fallen enemies. Impossible creatures. As night fell, Riven set up monitoring equipment in a small tent at the edge of camp. They intercepted communications, scanning for patterns in military movements. The data would help the Council make their decision about humanity. But something strange appeared in the encrypted channels. Government frequencies carried unusual traffic. Phrases repeated across multiple nations. Project Last Light, 72-hour protocol, final contingency. Riven ran the communications through translation algorithms but found no military context. Then the orders came through. Anna's unit received a message at 0300 hours. Riven watched her read it, watched her face go pale in the dim light of her screen. She sat very still for a long moment. Then she closed her eyes and took a breath that seemed to empty her completely. The next morning, everything changed. Soldiers who had been preparing for battle instead began standing down. Weapons were lowered, positions abandoned. On the opposite ridge, enemy forces did the same. 2 armies that had spent months trying to kill each other simply stopped. No announcement. No explanation. Just silence where there had been war. Riven found Anna staring across the valley at the enemy positions. Her hands trembled slightly. "What is happening?" Riven asked. Anna did not answer immediately. When she spoke, her voice was flat and distant. "Do you believe in miracles?" "I do not understand." "Neither do I." Anna turned away from the valley. Her eyes were wet. Neither do I. Riven intercepted another transmission that night. This one was less encrypted, more desperate. A scientist somewhere was arguing with government officials. Words jumped out from the static. Apophis 7. Impact trajectory confirmed. 72 hours. No solution. Repeat, no solution. The observer's membrane skin went white with shock. They understood now. The ceasefire. The strange behavior. The weight in Anna's eyes. Humanity was dying. An asteroid was coming. And somehow, impossibly, they had chosen to spend their final days not in war, but in silence. Riven contacted their superior immediately. Thessaly, there is an extinction event approaching Earth. Did the Council know? The ancient being's response came slowly, heavy with something that might have been shame. We have been watching, young one. We wanted to see how they would handle it. Every species reacts differently to the end. And you did nothing. We are observers, Riven. We do not interfere. Riven looked out at the valley, where enemies had become strangers, had become something else entirely. Two soldiers from opposite sides shared a cigarette in the darkness, their weapons lying forgotten in the mud. What are they doing? Riven asked. Something we have never seen before, Thessaly replied. That is why you must keep watching. Soldiers from both sides were digging graves together, not for the dead. The dead had been buried months ago. These graves were for weapons, rifles and ammunition and grenades, lowered into the earth like shameful secrets. Riven watched from the hillside as men who had tried to kill each other yesterday now worked side by side, burying the tools of war. And O1 spoke. No one needed a point. 2 days remained. 48 hours before the asteroid called Apophis 7 would strike the planet. The humans knew now. Not officially, not yet, but the silence of the ceasefire told them everything. War did not simply stop. Something larger had to be ending. Riven walked through the abandoned battlefield. Trenches stood empty. Guard posts sat unmanned. The constant sound of distant artillery that had defined this place for months was gone, replaced by birdsong that seemed almost offensive in its cheerfulness. Anna sat alone on a broken wall, staring at nothing. You knew, Riven said, sitting beside her. Before the others. You knew. 2 weeks. Anna's voice was hollow. Military command told us. Keep order. Maintain positions. Don't cause panic. She laughed bitterly. We followed orders while counting down to the end. Why do you not go home? Your daughter, Sophia, is with my mother in Buenos Aires. They went to the beach. Anna pulled out her phone and showed Riven a photo of a small girl building sandcastles, grinning at the camera. She doesn't know. She's happy. That's where she should be, not watching her mother fall apart. Riven did not understand this logic. If they had only days to live, why would Anna choose to spend them here, surrounded by strangers and former enemies, instead of with her child? I cannot comprehend your choice, Riven admitted. Neither can I, most days. Anna put the phone away. But there are children here too, and soldiers who are someone's children. I can't save Sophia, but maybe I can make sure no one here dies alone. A young man approached them cautiously. He wore the uniform of the opposing army, dirty and torn. His face was barely old enough for the stubble that patched his chin. He held something in his hands. You speak English? He asked Anna in a thick accent. Yes. He sat down across from them, uninvited but not unwelcome. From his pocket, he pulled a photograph of a baby wrapped in pink blankets. My sister, Katia. She is 3 months. His English was broken but determined. You have children? Anna showed him Sophia's picture. The young soldier smiled, and for a moment he looked even younger than his 19 years. Beautiful, he said. She looks happy. She is. Anna's voice cracked slightly. She is. They sat in silence, 2 soldiers who should have been enemies, connected by photographs of the children they would never see again. Riven recorded everything. This was the data the council needed, but it felt wrong to reduce these moments to information. Something sacred was happening here, something that transcended observation. I am Dmitri, the young soldier said eventually. Anna, I am sorry, Dmitri said. For war. For everything. Me too. That afternoon, Riven traveled to the astronomical observatory on the mountain above the valley. The building should have been evacuated, but lights still burned in the windows. Inside, A woman worked alone at a massive telescope, surrounded by charts and calculations. Doctor Yuki Tanaka looked up when Riven entered. Her eyes were red from crying or lack of sleep, or both. Another journalist? She asked wearily. I have nothing new to say. The trajectory is confirmed. Impact will occur in 43 hours. There is nothing we can do. Why are you still here? Riven asked. Why not go home? Yuki turned back to her telescope. Because I spent my whole life looking at stars. And I want my last act to be reaching for them. That's what we do. We reach, even when there's nothing to grab. You could be with family. I could. Yuki adjusted the telescope slightly. But my family understands. My husband is with our grandchildren in Kyoto. He knows why I stay. She smiled sadly. We said goodbye properly. Now I will do what I was born to do until I can't anymore. Riven returned to the valley as the sun set. The camp had transformed. Soldiers from both armies now shared fires, shared food, shared stories in broken languages and hand gestures. Someone had found musical instruments. A guitar played softly in the darkness. This was not surrender. This was not defeat. This was something else entirely. Riven contacted Thessaly again that night. They know, the Observer reported. The truth has spread even without official announcement. They all know. And how do they react? Riven looked out at the fires, at the shapes of former enemies sitting together, at Anna teaching Dmitri words in Spanish while he taught her Russian curses. They are gathering, Riven said. Not fighting, not running. Gathering. Coming together. Thessaly was silent for a long moment. In 10,000 years of observation, the ancient being finally said, across hundreds of civilizations facing extinction, we have never seen this response. They should be fighting for resources. They should be trying to escape. They should be destroying themselves faster than the asteroid ever could. But they are not. No. Thessaly's voice held something new. Wonder, perhaps. Or fear. They are not. Keep watching, Riven. This may be the most important data we have ever gathered. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to the world below. Somewhere among them, an asteroid hurtled toward Earth. And in a valley that had known only war, humans began to sing. Every screen on the planet flickered to life at exactly the same moment. Riven stood in the camp, surrounded by humans as world leaders appeared together. Presidents and prime ministers, dictators and monarchs, all standing on the same stage. Some are crying. Others stared ahead with hollow eyes. For the first time in human history, every nation spoke with one voice. 36 hours ago, we confirmed that an asteroid designated Apophis 7 will impact Earth. We have exhausted every option. There is no solution. Impact will occur in approximately 36 hours. The camp went silent. Soldiers who had suspected the truth now saw it confirmed on the faces of their leaders. Refugees who had fled war now understood they had been running towards something far worse. And then the world began to scream. Not everywhere. Not everyone. But the sound of grief rose from the camp like a wave, mixing with similar sounds from villages and cities across the planet. Riven's membrane skin turned gray with the weight of it, absorbing emotions they had never been designed to feel. Anna grabbed Riven's arm. Come with me. She led them away from the crowd, up a small hill overlooking the valley. Below, chaos and calm existed side by side. Some people ran in panic. Others simply sat down where they stood. A mother held her children close. An old man continued eating his dinner as if nothing had changed. Why are you not screaming? Riven asked. I did my screaming 2 weeks ago. Anna's voice was steady now, steadier than it had been since Riven met her. When you know the end is coming, you go through stages. Denial, anger, bargaining with God or science or anyone who might listen. Depression. And then, if you're lucky, you find something like acceptance. How can you accept extinction? Anna was quiet for a long moment. You don't accept it. You just stop fighting it. And then you figure out what matters. Below them, something remarkable was happening. The initial chaos was settling. People began reaching for each other. Strangers embraced. Soldiers from both sides found their former enemies and shook hands, hugged, wept together. Dmitri appeared beside them, breathing hard from running up the hill. His face was wet with tears. I called my mother, he said in his broken English. She is with Katia. They are okay. They are together. That's good, Anna said softly. She told me to find good people, to not be alone. Dmitri looked at Anna, at Riven, at the strange family of circumstance forming around them. I think I found them. The night that followed was unlike anything Riven had ever observed. Communication networks overloaded as billions tried to reach loved ones. Religious sites filled with people of every faith praying side by side. In cities around the world, strangers gathered in parks and squares, unwilling to face the end alone. Some violence erupted. Riven tracked reports of looting, of panic, of the worst of human nature emerging in the darkness. But for every act of destruction, there were 100 acts of kindness. Communities formed spontaneous defenses, not against each other, but against despair itself. In the camp, soldiers organized a massive meal. Both armies contributed their rations, their supplies, everything they had hoarded for a war that no longer mattered. Tables were dragged from bombed buildings. Candles were lit. Former enemies sat down to eat together. Anna and Dmitri ended up at the same table, trading stories through a translator app on Dmitri's phone. He told her about growing up near the mountains, about learning to ski before he could read, about his dream of becoming an engineer before the war took him. She told him about Sophia, about teaching her daughter to ride a bike, about the way she laughed at bad jokes. She showed him videos on her phone, and Dmitri watched with tears streaming down his face. "She is beautiful," he said. "She has her eyes. She has her father's stubbornness." Anna smiled through her own tears. "She'll need it." Riven contacted Thessaly as the meal continued around them. "I do not have words for what I am witnessing," the observer reported. "They're dying. They know they're dying, and they're using their final hours to comfort each other, to forgive each other, to love each other. This is impossible," Thessaly replied. "Every species we have observed facing extinction either fought for survival or descended into destruction. The humans are doing neither. No, they're doing something else." Riven watched as a soldier taught a refugee child to fold paper into shapes, as two former enemies shared photographs of their families. As Anna laughed at something Dmitri said, genuine laughter in the shadow of the end. They are holding each other. What does that accomplish? Riven thought about the question. In terms of survival, it accomplished nothing. The asteroid would still come. The impact would still occur. Everyone in this valley would still die. But that was not the point. "It accomplishes everything," Riven finally said, "and nothing, both at once." The meal lasted until dawn. People fell asleep where they sat, leaning on shoulders of strangers who had become something more. The first light of morning revealed a sky that looked wrong somehow. Then Riven saw it, a second point of light, faint but visible against the pale blue of early day. Apophis, 7 had become visible to the naked eye. The end was no longer an abstract concept. It was there above them, approaching. 32 hours remained. Someone had painted flowers on the tanks. Riven walked through what had been a battlefield, now transformed into something between a festival and a wake. Children climbed on armored vehicles decorated with bright colors. Soldiers posed for photographs with refugees they had been ordered to shoot just days ago. A man played violin on top of a destroyed building while people danced below. 24 hours remained. The asteroid was clearly visible now, a bright spot in the sky that seemed to grow larger every time Riven looked. Humans pointed at it constantly, but their reactions had shifted. Fear had not disappeared, but it had been joined by something else. Defiance, perhaps, or acceptance, or simply the determination to fill every remaining moment with life. Anna found Riven standing alone at the edge of the camp. "You look lost," she said. "I am recording everything, but I do not understand any of it." Riven's membrane skin shifted through colors rapidly, unable to settle. "Your world is ending. You should be in chaos. Instead, you're painting flowers on machines of war." Anna looked at the decorated tanks and smiled. "That's the point." "What point?" "The machines were made to destroy. We're making them beautiful instead. That's our final answer to all of it. To the war. To the asteroid. To everything." She sat down on a fallen tree and gestured for Riven to join her. When you can't control what happens, you control how you respond. And we're responding with color. Around the camp, evidence of this philosophy appeared everywhere. Musicians played instruments salvaged from destroyed homes. Artists painted murals on bombed walls. Writers scribbled poems on any surface they could find. Humanity was creating with desperate joy, filling their final hours with beauty they would never see again. Dr. Tanaka arrived at the camp that afternoon. She had finally left her telescope, but she carried charts and photographs with her. I wanted to show people, she explained, spreading papers across the table. What I saw, what I spent my life seeing. Crowds gathered around her, images of distant galaxies, of nebulae and star nurseries and worlds too far to ever reach. Children asked questions. Adults listened with wonder they had forgotten they possessed. We came from this, Dr. Tanaka said, pointing at a photograph of the Milky Way. Stardust. Every atom in our bodies was forged in the heart of a star that exploded billions of years ago. And tomorrow, we return to it. That's sad, a small boy said. No. Dr. Tanaka knelt to meet his eyes. That's beautiful. We got to be alive. We got to see sunsets and taste ice cream and love each other. Stardust doesn't get to do any of that. We did. The boy thought about this for a moment. Then he smiled. Can I keep this picture? Of course. Riven watched Dr. Tanaka give away every photograph she had brought, watched her life's work scattered among strangers who would treasure it for a few more hours. Nothing about this made logical sense. Nothing about humans ever had. That evening, Anna received a video call. Riven stood nearby, not intending to observe but unable to look away. On the screen, a little girl with dark hair and bright eyes waved excitedly. Mama, look what I made. Sophia held up her phone to show a massive sandcastle towering above her on the beach. It was decorated with shells and flags made from sticks and paper. It's beautiful, Mija. Anna's voice was steady, but her hand shook. How tall is it? Taller than me. Grandma said it's the tallest one on the beach. Sophia bounced with pride. I put a flag on top. I wrote our name on it. I love it. I love you so much. When are you coming home, Mama? Anna closed her eyes for just a moment. When she opened them, her smile was perfect, revealing nothing of the breaking underneath. Soon, baby. Keep building. Make it touch the sky. I will. Love you, Mama. Love you more. Love you most. The call ended. Anna sat very still, phone clutched in both hands. Riven watched her breathe slowly, deliberately, holding herself together through pure will. That was the hardest thing I have ever done, Anna whispered. Why did you not tell her? Because she's 6. Because she's happy. Because I want her last memory of me to be this. Smiling. Proud. Not falling apart. Anna wiped her eyes and stood. She'll figure it out. Tomorrow. She'll understand. But tonight, she's building sandcastles to the sky. Riven had no response. There was nothing in their training, nothing in the Council's vast archives that prepared them for witnessing this kind of love. That night, Riven sent their report to Thessaly. I no longer feel capable of objective observation, they admitted. I have become invested in these people, in their survival, in their choices. That is the danger of observation, Thessaly replied. The more closely you watch something, the more you become part of it. Then what should I do? What do you want to do? Riven looked at the camp, at Anna sitting by a fire with Dmitri and the others, at Dr. Tanaka showing children the stars they came from, at hundreds of humans choosing connection over despair. I want to stay with them. Until the end. Thessaly was silent. Then, perhaps that is the most scientific choice of all. To observe completely, you must experience completely. Stay, Riven. Witness. And remember, the second sun hung in the sky, brighter than before. 18 hours remained. They were teaching each other their languages. Riven walked through the camp as dawn broke on the last full day Earth would ever see. Everywhere, humans sat in small groups, pointing at objects and sharing words. Russian, Spanish, English, Arabic, German. The sounds mixed together into something new, a language of endings that everyone somehow understood. Anna sat with Dmitri and a dozen others around a small fire. She held up a stone. Rock, she said in English. Cayman, Dmitri replied in Russian. Piedra offered a soldier from the other side. Stein added someone else. They passed the stone around the circle, each person adding their word for it. By the end, the stone held more names than anyone could remember. It had become everything at 1.8 hours remained. Riven had stopped sending reports to Thessaly. There was no longer any point. Everything happening now was beyond analysis, beyond data, beyond anything the Council's archives could contain. This had to be witnessed, not recorded at Dr. Tanaka sat on the hillside, telescope aimed at the approaching asteroid. She had not slept in 2 days, but her eyes were sharp. It's beautiful, in a way, she said as Riven approached. A mountain of iron and stone that's been traveling through space for millions of years. It watched the dinosaurs die. It watched humanity rise. And now it will watch us end. Do you hate it? The asteroid, Dr. Tanaka laughed softly. No, it's not evil. It's not even aware. It's just physics. A thing in motion staying in motion until something stops it. She paused. We couldn't stop it. That's not the asteroid's fault. What would you have done differently? If you had known earlier? She thought about this. Nothing, probably. We launched every rocket we had. We tried everything. But the universe isn't fair. Sometimes you do everything right and still lose. Across the camp, someone had organized the children. They were releasing paper lanterns into the sky, each one carrying a wish or a name or a drawing. The lanterns drifted up like earthbound stars, rising to meet the light that would end them. Anna found Riven as the afternoon stretched toward evening. Can I ask you something? She said. Of course. You're not human. I figured that out days ago. Your skin changes color when you feel things, and no human aid worker would take notes as obsessively as you do. She smiled at Riven's shocked expression. I've seen a lot of strange things in war. An alien observer is barely in the top 10. Riven let their perception filter drop. Their true form emerged, tall and luminescent, membrane skin glowing pale blue with embarrassment and relief. You are not afraid, Riven observed. A what? An alien? Anna laughed. There's a mountain about to fall from the sky. My fear inventory is full. I was sent to study your wars. And what did you find? Riven looked around the camp, at former enemies sharing food, at soldiers writing letters they would never send, at children chasing each other between tents, at Dr. Tanaka explaining stars to anyone who would listen. I found something I cannot explain, Riven admitted. Every species my people have observed facing extinction either descends into violence or attempts to flee. You have done neither. What have we done? You have chosen to spend your final hours being kind to each other. You have forgiven enemies. You have made beauty. You have held hands with strangers. Riven's skin shifted to gold, a color of wonder in their species. I have been alive for over a century. I have observed 73 civilizations. I have never seen anything like this. Anna was quiet for a long moment. We're not saints, she finally said. There's violence happening somewhere. There are people dying angry and alone. We're not perfect, but she gestured at the camp, at the lanterns still rising, at the music still playing. Most of us chose this. When the end came, most of us chose love. Why? Because it's all we have. Everything we build, everything we own, everything we fight for, it's all temporary. The only thing that lasts is how we treat each other. And we figured that out with 1 day left to live. Anna smiled sadly. Humans are slow learners. Dmitri approached with a piece of paper in his hand. He held it out to Riven. You will survive, he said. When it happens, you will survive. Riven took the paper. It was a letter, written in Russian with English translation scribbled beneath. It is for my sister, Dmitri explained. For Katia. Tell her I was brave. Tell her I was not alone. Tell her to be happy. His voice cracked. Tell her I loved her. I will try, Riven promised. That is all we can ask. Dmitri smiled through his tears. That is all any of us can ask. The asteroid filled a quarter of the sky now, visible even in daylight. Its brightness cast strange shadows across the camp, creating a world lit by 2 suns. Some people had stopped looking at it. Others could not look away. 1 hour remained. Anna stood and walked toward the crowd gathering in the camp center. Riven followed. Dmitri fell in beside them. Around them, humans were singing, not the same song. Dozens of songs, in dozens of languages, overlapping and interweaving into something that was all of them and none of them. A chorus of endings. A hymn to everything they had been and everything they would never become. Riven removed their communication device and crushed it beneath their foot. Thessaly would understand. Some things could not be transmitted. Some things had to be lived. 30 minutes remained. The child asked if she could hold Riven's hand. She was perhaps 5 years old, a refugee whose name Riven had never learned. Her parents stood nearby, arms wrapped around each other, watching the sky with tears streaming down their faces. But the girl was not looking up. She was looking at Riven, at the strange, glowing being who did not belong here, but had chosen to stay anyway. "Your hand is warm," she said when Riven accepted. "Like sunlight. You are warm too," Riven replied. "Like hope." The girl smiled, and somehow that smile contained everything Riven had come to understand about humanity in these final days. The courage to face endings. The choice to love despite loss. The beauty that existed only because it would not last. 10 minutes remained. Anna stood in the circle of humans that had formed at the camp center. Dmitri was beside her, their shoulders touching. Dr. Tanaka sat nearby, telescope forgotten now, her eyes fixed on the sky she had spent her life studying. Hundreds of others filled the space between them, soldiers and refugees and enemies and strangers, all holding hands in an unbroken chain of connection. No one was fighting. No one was running. They were simply present, together, facing what could not be escaped. That Anna's phone buzzed. She answered it with trembling hands. "Mama." Sophia's voice was bright, unaware. "Look at my sandcastle." The video showed a towering structure of sand and shells, decorated with flags and seaweed, and every treasure a 6-year-old could find. Sophia had built it higher than herself, a monument to joy in the final hours. "It's beautiful, Mija." Anna's voice did not shake. Her face did not crack. She held herself together through pure will, refusing to burden her daughter with goodbye. "You built it to the sky. I want to build one every day. Can we build one together when you come home?" "Yes, baby. We'll build 100 sandcastles. The biggest ones in the world. Promise." Anna closed her eyes. "I promise. Love you, Mama. I love you more than all the sand and all the oceans. I love you to the stars and back. I love you forever and always and no matter what." "You're silly, Mama." Sophia giggled. "I have to go help Grandma. Bye." The screen went dark. Anna pressed the phone to her heart and breathed. "Just breathe." Dmitri put his arm around her. No words. None were needed. 5 minutes remained. The sky was fire now. The asteroid had entered the atmosphere, trailing heat and light that turned night into blazing day. The sound had not reached them yet, but it was coming. A roar that would be the last thing any of them ever heard. Riven looked at the humans around them. Some prayed. Some wept. Some laughed at jokes that only they understood. Some kissed loved ones. Some kissed strangers. All of them faced the end with their eyes open. "Dmitri," Riven said, "I will deliver your letter. I swear it." "Thank you, friend." Dmitri's smile was peaceful. "Thank you for staying with us. There is nowhere else I would rather be." The child who held Riven's hand tugged gently. "What happens next?" Riven knelt to meet her eyes. "Something beautiful. A light brighter than anything you've ever seen. And then you'll be everywhere. Part of the stars. Part of everything. Will it hurt? Only for a moment. Then you'll be free." The girl nodded solemnly. "Okay, I'm not scared. You are very brave. So are you." 1 minute remained that Anna's voice cut through the silence. She had begun to sing. The words were in Spanish, a lullaby perhaps, something soft and ancient and full of love. Others joined her, adding their voices, their languages, their final offerings to the universe that was about to erase them. Dr. Tanaka stood and faced the sky. "Thank you," she said to no one and everyone. "Thank you for the stars. Thank you for the chance to see them." The sound reached them, a roar like every thunderstorm that had ever existed, all at once. The ground trembled. The light became unbearable. Riven closed their eyes and held the child's hand tighter. The impact came 3 months later. Riven stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was vast, filled with representatives from 1,000 species, all watching the lone Siltari at the center. Riven's membrane skin shifted through colors of grief and wonder and something new, something that had no name in their language. "You were sent to observe humans at war," Thessaly said from the high chair. "Present your findings." Riven activated the display. Images appeared, not of battles or weapons, but of humans holding hands, of soldiers painting flowers on tanks, of strangers teaching each other words, of a little girl building sandcastles on a beach she would never leave. "I was sent to study their violence," Riven said, "but I witnessed their grace. In their final days, they stopped fighting. They stopped running. They chose to face extinction together with love." The council murmured. This was not what they had expected. Humanity was not perfect. They knew war and cruelty and hatred. But when the end came, they chose differently. They chose to forgive enemies, to comfort strangers, to sing. Riven changed the display. A new image appeared, a ship, tiny and fragile, drifting through the void. Before the impact, humanity launched generation ships. Thousands of their people, frozen, sleeping, carried toward distant stars. Seeds of a species that faced extinction with more dignity than any civilization I have ever observed. Riven looked at the council, at the ancient beings who had watched the universe for millions of years. "I ask you to find them, protect them, help them. They deserve to try again." The vote was unanimous. 6 months later, a council fleet located the first human vessel. Inside, thousands slept, dreaming of worlds they might never reach. In the cargo hold, among the letters and photographs and precious keepsakes, was a folded piece of paper out a letter from a brother to his sister. A promise that love survives everything, even the end.